everyone. I'm going to introduce myself very briefly. I'm Lorena Segovia. I am Regional Manager for Financial Lines in Continental Europe and Country Manager for South of Europe of Beazley. And here we have Fred Kleiterp. Hello, Fred.
Good morning, Lorena.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, of course. My name is Fred Kleiterp and I'm the European General Manager at Beazley.
Fred, how did you end up working in insurance and what attracts you most to this sector?
Well, Lorena, I think like many people, unfortunately, I ended up in insurance by coincidence. When I graduated from university back in 1991, I really didn't have a fixed plan of what I wanted to do. And the first job offer that I got was from a credit insurance company. So I thought I'll give it a go. And I really, really liked it. I stayed there for 10 years. And what I liked about it and what I still like about the industry is that it's a people business. You get to meet a lot of people and that it is very much at the heart of society. So the things that we do in the insurance industry really touch people, businesses, even governments. And it's really, very meaningful, interesting and intellectually challenging sometimes as well. What about you?
I also ended up by chance in this industry.
I knew it.
So in fact, I started my professional career as a tax advisor. And after a number of years in large companies like Arthur Andersen, I took a break. I was traveling the world for a year, and when I came back, I asked some friends what they were doing for living. And one of them was an underwriter. So I got really curious, and this is how I ended up working for Tokio Marine HCC, and I really enjoy it. And I completely agree with you. I think it has a very interesting element of reflects the real world that we live. So you need to read the news, you need to understand a little bit annual reports. It's very interesting. And I think it has a level of complexity that keep us kind of in a learning curve. So I think it's a very nice industry, in fact.
Fully agree.
You've been at Beazley for 2.5 years. What would you say have been your 3 highlights during this time?
I joined in June 2023, and if I think back of these only 3 years, I think the first highlight was the onboarding, which sounds funny, but it was really a great pleasure to get to meet all the people and the teams and to learn about Beazley's specializations and capabilities. And I found people so incredibly collaborative and helpful and nice that it was a truly pleasant experience. So that's highlight number 1. I guess highlight number 2 was when we launched the European strategy 2 years ago in the meantime. Yeah. And it's great to see that strategy now in action. So seeing the new products and the new lines of business coming to life and seeing the growth coming to life is a great highlight as well. And then thirdly, I must say, is this year because of the 40-year anniversary. And the fact that you and I are sitting in a pink taxi with pink microphones and doing all these fun things to celebrate that we've been around for 4 decades, which I think is, a highlight for all of us. So what about you, Lorena?
Okay, so for me, I've been a little bit longer at Beazley, and then I would go, the first one probably is at the very beginning when we were only 3 underwriters joining Beazley Spain. We accepted to launch 10 Spanish wordings in 3 months. That was a real challenge, but with the support of London and the wordings team, we made it. And this was definitely a highlight.
Must have been hard work.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was an interesting summer. Second one is more around 4 or 5 years since we started operations. At some point, it's not very precise, but at some point when visiting brokers and doing kickoff meetings in key countries in continental Europe, including Spain, we realized that the brokers start telling us that we were among their top carriers. And the last one is also linked to your roadmap, in fact, and you joining Beazley. I think the fact that we put so much effort and investment in growing Europe, it has reflected very clearly in the Spanish market. Yeah. Last year, we were able to bring renewable energy solutions in Spain, also property. That was a super highlight. And last but not least, to manage to open a working space in Madrid. As you know, we have the Barcelona office, but we really needed an office in Madrid, and now it's a reality. What do you think it makes Beazley different from your perspective?
Yeah, we'll have to say that we're different. And it's not just the color, right? The color pink, which I think really stands out in the financial services industry in a very good way, but it stands for so much more. We like to talk about expertise, and I think that's true. We have global expertise in specialty lines of business, which are hard to underwrite, but we do that extremely well. But what impresses me probably even more than that is how we deploy that expertise, the agility in which we can deploy the expertise in different circumstances. So expertise deployed in a very agile and entrepreneurial way, I would say.
If I can compliment a little bit on this specific aspect, I absolutely agree with you. And I think on the entrepreneurial side, I think this is a huge difference of Beazley from other companies. Yeah. And from my personal experience, really, this gives a sense of trust that encourage and motivate people a lot. So I think these two traits are very representative of Beazley. Last question then, because we are getting to our
new office. Yes.
If you were a risk manager, what would you miss that you cannot find on the market today?
Supply chain risk. And that sounds funny because there's nothing new about supply chain risk. It's always been there. Of course, supply chains are vulnerable to natural catastrophes. They're vulnerable to credit risk. They're vulnerable to social risks as well, like forced labor and what have you. But of course, increasingly today also vulnerable to geopolitical risk and the need for many countries to become more self-sufficient, if you will. The sovereign independence, and all of that makes supply chain risk an incredibly complex topic. And if I were a risk manager, that would probably be in my top 3 risks to try and get my head around and try to find solutions. And if you would step into the shoes of a broker, how would you answer that same question?
I think service levels is a broad concept. But there's always 2 topics that brokers talk about. One is, please come back to us quickly. Even if it's with a no, we understand, but let's not be silent. And this is something that we have to have in the top of our heads, and we try to do as an industry, but we know we're not always succeed. And there is another topic that they keep talking about, which is also about, you are very expert, you know what you are doing, but can you please get out a little bit of your area of comfort and try to nuance your solution so that sometimes you can be more flexible and meet really other kind of needs that our risk managers and our clients have. And I think this is really a challenge that we have to take. Some companies are able to do it in some extent, but I think it's a work for the whole industry to keep working on and be able to offer this solution to our brokers.
A good challenge to have.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for your time. It was a very pleasant taxi ride.
It was. Thank you, Lorena. It was a great pleasure to speak with you.
Bye.
Thank you.